Hi everyone, I'm Ambreen, and today we're going to be talking about autism, which is our episode 2 of the GolRotiRealTalk. And joins me is again my BFF and colleague, and knows a lot more about autism, I feel. So she's going to join us, and we're all going to talk about, autism, especially in the South Asian community. So yeah,
Hi,
welcome, Amy.
everyone. Hi everyone. This is Dr. Eman Toheed, and as Amreen mentioned, I'm a medical director of a clinic which is specialized for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, जिसमें autism के patients आते हैं. So we are going to discuss autism in South Asian community, as Amreen just mentioned, which is the elephant in the topic. We will discuss the myths, the misunderstandings, and especially, unfortunately, the stigma which is the part of this society कि हम उसको कैसे ब्रेक करें और कैसे इन बच्चों की जो कि ये बच्चे सिर्फ नहीं रहेंगे they're going to become adults after some years and which will be part of your community. They will be working with you everywhere together. So we need to be inclusive. So that's why we thought this is very important to bring this topic to light. Let's start with the basics. What is autism? So autism spectrum disorder जो है वो एक न्यूरो प्रॉब्लम है. सो आपका ब्रेन में कोई प्रॉपर चीज़ डेवलप नहीं हुई या न्यूरॉन्स का कोई प्रॉब्लम है, तो इससे आपकी आपकी कम्युनिकेशन अफेक्ट होती है, बोलने में परेशानी है, दिक्कत है, या वो देर से बोलते हैं बच्चे, बिहेवियर उनका थोड़ा आउट होता है, विच वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड. दे डोंट वांट टू हार्म यू, दे डोंट वांट टू हर्ट यू, इट्स जस्ट दैट दे आर ऑल्सो लर्निंग हाउ टू बिहेव इन दिस एनवायरनमेंट. सोशल इंटरेक्शन का प्रॉब्लम है, वो पैरेलल प्ले करते हैं, दे डोंट वांट टू बी इन्वॉल्व इन ग्रुप प्लेस. So that's why they are excluded most of the times. But we need to understand their issues and need to involve them with us. And this has helped, if you see. ये लोगों की बहुत मदद हुई है इससे. And as a medical doctor and public health advocate, there are so many families I see who are going through this path, especially in this community. So let me ask Ambreen to define more on what a spectrum is or autism की branches क्या है.
So, really need to understand the word spectrum because it's a big part of autism. And that basically means that it's not a one size fit all diagnosis. Um, there are, every kid can have different symptoms of autism, and every kid has been shown through research to perform differently than others. So, for example, one kid can be with autism can be completely non-verbal and need 24/7 support, whereas other kids would just have some mild um, sensory sensitivities or social differences. So basically, you know, सारे बच्चे जो हैं जिनको ऑटिज्म का डायग्नोसिस मिलता है, उनके पास डिफरेंट टाइप के सिम्टम्स होते हैं. कुछ जो हैं बहुत ही, वी ऑल नो some of them are extremely gifted and talented, right? So we just have to understand and make sure that we understand every person's unique strengths and needs.
So as Ambreen said, not every kid with autism is the same. So if you have met one person with autism, you have literally met one person with autism.
Yeah.
So each one of them is completely different. Some of them are so smart. They're smarter than a lot of, gold medal people, the trophy winners. And we need to understand everyone has their own capabilities and their own, हर कोई अपनी किसी ना किसी खूबी के साथ पैदा हुआ है. So I would say we have to look for the good things in them which we can use for our benefit and for the benefit of the whole community and for themselves too. So causes could be, there's again no single cause. It could be genetic, it could be environmental, it could be a combination of everything. It could be a developmental disorder in the brain. So there's not one thing which I can pinpoint, but there are a lot of theories and research going on, which Ambreen is going to shed more light on.
Exactly. And like she said, there's a lot of research going on, but as a physician, I can tell you what does not cause autism. And I think that is extremely important to understand. Parenting, the style of parenting that you do does not cause autism. वैक्सीन्स जो हम लगाते हैं बचपन में, स्पेशली आई थिंक MMR, measles, mumps and rubella vaccine, काफी under the radar आ जाती. That does not cause autism. This myth, this has been debunked in research, so that's extremely important to understand. And ये सब we हम लोग बहुत outdated and harmful information सुनते हैं, because I don't know if you know this, but here in Texas, बहुत बड़ा measles outbreak हो रहा है right now. I was just reading yesterday that 900 people are affected. So just हम autism के scare से अगर हम vaccines नहीं लगाते, then we can go, it's like going from the frying pan into the fire kind of thing. So we know that autism is not caused by um, um, medical technologies like vaccines, right? A lot of people say screen time, but will be proven nahi hai. So you can think, and then it might even be genetic, or a family predisposition to it, but nothing has been proven.
तो जब इनके ट्रीटमेंट की बात करते हैं कि इसका क्या ट्रीटमेंट है, जितना अर्ली आप इंटरवेंशन करेंगे, तो आपको आज जिन मौन से भी हम मिला रहे हैं उसका आप यही आपको सोल्यूशन नजर आएगा कि जितना अर्ली आपने आइडेंटिफाई किया और जितना अर्ली आपने उनको सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड की, स्पेशली आपने उनको बिहेवियरल थेरेपी, ऑक्यूपेशनल थेरेपी, स्पीच थेरेपी, उतना बेटरमेंट देखेंगे इनमें लाइफ में. ठीक है.
Absolutely.
या so Amreen, you want to continue on this?
Yeah, and we carry a lot of shame. Like there's no shame associated to a medical diagnosis. In South Asian family, I don't know why, but this has become a taboo. हम autistic बच्चों को छुपाते हैं families में, उनको ज़्यादा skill sets से expose नहीं होने देते, which only delays their treatment, and in some cases it also delays the quality of life that they have as an adult. तो आप shame carry नहीं करें, because that can delay diagnosis and treatment. हम लोग parents को सुनते हैं, वो बोलते हैं कि वो अपने बच्चों को छुपाते हैं because they're like लोग क्या कहेंगे, but that लोग क्या कहेंगे mentality is not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to help your kids. It's damaging for your kids. तो हम लोग अपने बच्चों को कैसे support कर सकते हैं?
So definitely. So yeah, to bring a solution to this and to have a real life experience, we have two guests here, as we mentioned in our intro video. क्योंकि केयर जो है इन बच्चों की, वो सिर्फ वही वाली बात है, चाइल्डहुड पे स्टॉप नहीं हो जाती. They are going to grow up. They are, because of better medical care in the US and anywhere in the world, they are living their longer lives than us even now. But there are still so many barriers to their health, which we will discuss more. So I will introduce and bring the CEO of Logic Finder and Soleil Point, Dr. Wajid Hassan.
Now we want to welcome someone who's truly special, our next guest, Arfa, who works for public service and is a proud mother to 3 beautiful children and is a self-advocate for her 2 children who are on the spectrum. So Arfa, welcome to Gold Roti, and thank you for doing this for us.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
So, Assalamu alaikum, Arfa. Thank you for joining us. This is an honor and pleasure for us. So,
how did you notice the first signs in your kids that something is different, and then what was the reaction of the people around you?
Wa alaikum assalam, Aiman. Thanks again for having me. And I will say, really, the honor is mine. This is a topic I am very passionate about. I have actually lived in the world of disability literally since I was born, because my twin sister is a deaf individual with some learning disabilities. So when I became a parent, because of what I saw with my sister growing up, what we experienced as a family, the lack of understanding and awareness, and unfortunately, even compassion within our community towards individuals who are differently abled, I knew that when I became a parent, if I ever suspected the slightest signs of delay in any of my children, I was not going to hesitate to get evaluations done and to begin an intervention for them. I will say before I get into, what led me down this world of autism, going back to what you and Umbreen were saying earlier, yes, there is a lack of awareness and there's stigma in South Asian society. I don't think it necessarily stems from the parents and the families of the individuals who are autistic or disabled, because every parent loves their child unconditionally, and we would go to the ends of the world for them. But unfortunately, our society sometimes forces us to act in a way that is not in the best interest of the child. That's compounded by the fact that, yes, there is a lack of education around what does it mean to be autistic and what are the best ways that we can serve that child. So, with that said, I was introduced to the world of autism with a bang, I must say, more than 5 years ago, before the pandemic started. So, Ambreen mentioned I have 3 kids, alhamdulillah. My younger two, my boys, they are both autistic. So, it's my middle child who was diagnosed with autism first. When he was about a year and a half old, my husband and I, we noticed a few minor things, like he had a few words and then he lost them. And we were constantly comparing his development to our eldest, who is our daughter, and noticing that he was, in terms of communication, he was delayed. We raised this with the pediatrician, and the pediatrician said, unfortunately, what I now know is a very common response from doctors is like, oh, that's normal. Boys are always slower than the sisters. Like the younger brother, they always develop slower than the older sister. So don't worry about it. I kept pushing over the next several months, and the doctor said, like, well, let's wait and see. I'm not worried about it. But because of the experience I had with my sister, you can call it, mother's instinct. And I also believe Allah Ta'ala was, giving me a nudge. So I kept pushing, and I saw at the time my family, we were living in Maryland. So I took advantage of the free state services. I saw several specialists until finally I got to someone who said, you know what? I think this is autism and you should have him evaluated.
So, like, बाकी लोग जो हैं, how do they identify the signs? For example, you had a sister who has a disability, so you were able to catch those signs and symptoms earlier as compared to other people. What would you recommend others?
Yeah, I think ये बहुत अच्छा सवाल है, Iman, and I think what it helped me with, honestly, was Alhamdulillah, I think because I grew up with an individual with a profound disability, मैं डिसेबिलिटी से नहीं घबराती थी या घबराती हूँ. That is not to say at all that it's easy. It is not. It is absolutely, I'm, a person of faith. I'm Muslim, so like I do believe it's a test from Allah. But I also believe, as we say in Urdu, like these individuals, they're baise rahmat, baise barkat. Like we do believe in our faith that these individuals, they are like really blessed in the eyes of our Creator, and they're a means to a better afterlife for us. So I think like having a deaf sister, it didn't necessarily make the signs more apparent to me, but I walked in already without oftentimes parents, when they're new to disability, they go through a phase of denial or mourning. I kind of skipped that because once I noticed the signs, which were, so for both of my sons, their autism was regressive, meaning they started out developing like a typical child and then they regressed. So, for instance, they had a few words and then they completely stopped talking. They would become very overwhelmed in crowds, which was something my daughter never experienced because I come from a huge extended family. So, like we're used to the typical large desi davats with lots of adults and kids running around. And my older daughter loved those जो मेरे दो बेटे थे वो बहुत घबराते थे इस तरह crowds में. It was a lot of like the telltale signs, also the lack of eye contact, not responding to their names, or in the case of my sons, they were responding to their names when they were under one, but then they regressed and that they lost that ability. So again, I'll say that like I walked in, I think, with greater awareness and more compassion, and I think like very strong faith about how I was going to navigate it. But in terms of actually navigating the services, which I know, Eamon, you're going to ask me about later, that was still a very challenging and eye-opening, but still rewarding experience for us as a family.
So, Arfa, I really liked what you said, and it sounds like society, especially the South Asian society in our community, doesn't make it any easier for us. And there's a lot of debate about what treatments work. But nothing has been absolutely been proven, and I'm sure a lot of long-term studies need to be done. But I have a question for my first guest, Wajid. Can I ask you what your company or your team does for families that have autistic kids? Because I see a common trend, and even what I'm getting from Arfa is that it is a lot of work, and you have to put in a lot of work, and resources are less. So how can you help us achieve some of the goals that would lead to a better quality of life, not just with the kids, but also in their families?
Thank you for having me, Team GolRoti. My company, Solace Point, provides support to caregivers, people, families of families with autistic kids in navigating the system. A lot there's a shortage of caregivers, direct support professionals, and we come in to support and train people, uh, families, parents, siblings who have an autistic person in their family. Uh, this is the Solace Point does. That's how we have developed, and we work with a lot of families in getting them knowledgeable of the system, navigate the system, what are the challenges that they're facing, and how like it's like you've been saying about this earlier, that this is common. There are so many autistic people. You cannot discriminate. You cannot put them inside a room and not show it to everybody. So we try to make it easy. We try to talk to the parents, the siblings, the loved ones, to feel comfortable that this is normal. This is not out of
So
ordinary. So we provide training for the intellectually disabled patients. Yes, they live shorter life compared to the normal adults, but it's pretty long life. I have seen people with autism who are like 55 plus years of age. They are functioning adults, but they are visible signs of autism. If you talk about Down syndrome, which is a genetic disorder. So all these people with intellectual disabilities do get these kind of different kind of diseases early on. For example, they have heart diseases, they have kidney diseases, dental issues. So our training module talks to and guides the families about what are the challenges ahead. They also encounter cancer. How do they navigate the cancer? How do they have any cardiovascular diseases? So we have modules on each of these, and these are specifically designed for people with autism, because there are very few or none of the programs available right now that talk about this. There are no general practitioners who focus on this. There are no internists who focus is on only on autism, autistic people. So we help families prepare for this and guide them that, hey, this is their individual uh, with autism is going through, a Down syndrome is going through. So, and of course, that as part of the whole training, we do talk about the behavioral part of it, but this is more focused on medical training that we do.
Thank you.
That there is nothing
And
available for people with these disabilities.
that you seem to have and that you seem to give to families who have children with autism sounds great. And it sounds like it's all remote. So even if they're not physically present, they can still avail a lot of those resources. So that sounds fantastic. Speaking of resources, Arfa, what are the top 3 resources that you recommend for families who have autistic kids, or what helped you personally?
That's a great question, Umbreen. And I think first and foremost, I would say that parents need to feel empowered to be the advocate for their children. So I run into, especially in our South Asian community, moms, especially where a doctor or a specialist says something and it doesn't feel quite right to them for their child, but they're afraid to push back. And I always tell them, you are your child's number one advocate. So feel empowered to do what you think is best for your child, because no one knows your child as well as you do. So that's the first thing. The second thing is just start with your pediatrician. For most of us, our pediatrician is our first point of contact, right? As we're beginning to navigate the world of disability. So see who your pediatrician refers you to. But then in addition to that, I have spent a lot of time doing my own research, seeking out, thanks to social media and LinkedIn and other online platforms. There are so many communities out there available to support parents and families and provide them with reputable resources. So, one organization I always think of is the ARC. They are a national nonprofit that supports individuals with disabilities and their caregivers and families, and they usually have chapters in every state. I'm also just part of a couple of really great Facebook communities of parents and caregivers and specialists where people are always sharing information with each other. So those are just a few starting points. And lastly, I just want to follow up on something Wajid Bhai was saying, that yes, it's important for families and caregivers to support their children, but it's important for us as a society, especially in our South Asian community, for us to support those individuals and their families because they need it. So if you have someone in your life that is being impacted by autism or any other disability, show up for them and include those individuals and ask them how you can help and just be there for them.
Wajid, just quickly tell us, how do people find funding? Does it cost a lot? And if not, that's great. And if it does, what funding options are there? How do people reach out to you, especially with these Medicare and Medicaid cuts? How do you recommend people reaching out to you? आप प्लीज और थोड़ा सा डिफाइन कीजिए, और जो आप केयर गिवर्स के लिए भी अपना एक सपोर्ट प्रोग्राम बोल रहे थे उसको भी जरा प्लीज बताइए.
So at Logic Finder, we provide workforce development solutions. We have people with disabilities who have come in and support a lot of technical work that we do. We think that autistic people have different kind of pattern viewing capabilities that other normal people don't. We have found it very successful with some of our customers. So we hire people with disabilities and autistic disabilities. Right now, I have about 6 people working in my office who have intellectual disabilities. And we have been doing this for over 12 years now. So we have these autistic people coming in our facility, work with them, with us. My team is well aware, and we are very compassionate about this. Overall, my team understands the people that some of them have disabilities, so they work with them. So I wanted to talk about that, and then you asked about the funding. Um, we in US, I'm in US. In US, there's Medicaid and Medicare programs through which this training can be applied through. There's a challenge is this that usually the Medicaid or Medicare is provided to the patient and not to the family. But you can also talk to the insurances, the primary insurances. These usually cover part of this training program or similar kind of training programs. There are state level there are state level grants that are available, and there are other foundations that support this kind of training. So there are fundings available. It's not streamlined, but there is. Also want to mention that in US, because of the cuts to Medicaid and Medicare, we are gonna see a little bit challenge in getting support for
Yeah.
in general in the IDD intellectually disabled disorder community. We do not know yet, but that's the challenge that we are seeing. However, we work with a lot of families, and we have supported them for a
Thank
number of
you,
years, and we
Wajid and
look
Arfa,
forward to
for
working with them.
sharing your
Make
thoughts and your personal
make this
experiences. We
normal,
appreciate it so much.
make
And
it
given the
as
recent,
part of our life.
challenges
So
that we're facing with the cuts, it's become even more important to create awareness, especially amongst parents in the South Asian community. So, this was just Eamon and I's, just a little something that we wanted to give back, and we just wanted this was just our way of saying, creating awareness. So thank you so much, and I'm sure a lot of parents who are going to be seeing and watching this will feel seen, and they'll feel like that they're heard, and that their stories are being heard and respected, and then also hopefully we can all become a great community.
Thank you, Arfa, and thank you, Wajid. I just want to end with a closing statement. कि ऑटिज्म कोई कर्ज नहीं है, ऑटिज्म कोई सजा नहीं है जो हमारी पनिशमेंट उसको कहते हैं हमारे कल्चर में, कि ये माँ जो है बच्चों को ध्यान नहीं देती है इसलिए हो गया है, इसके बच्चे तो हर वक्त फोन यूज करते रहते हैं, वो मियाँ संभाल रहा होता है इसीलिए बच्चे नहीं बोल रहे हैं. These kind of things are very hurtful. जो ऑलरेडी फैमिली इतनी प्रॉब्लम से गुजर रही है, जो अरफा ने डिफाइन की हैं, और उसके बाद आप इस तरह के कमेंट्स करें rather than being understanding, तो this hurts. और ये किसी के साथ भी हो सकता है, ठीक है, और उस बच्चे का तो कोई कसूर ही नहीं है कि उसके साथ ये हुआ है. आप बर्थडे कर रहे हैं अपने घर में, सब लोगों को बुला रहे हैं, और उस फैमिली को एक्सक्लूड कर रहे हैं जिनके बच्चे को ऑटिज्म है, ये सोच के कि हमारी बर्थडे पार्टी खराब हो जाएगी. दिस इज वेरी 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 मीन, एंड वी शुड नॉट डू इट. वी शुड इंक्लूड देम. और या फिर आप उस फैमिली को ऐसा फील कराते हैं कि फिर माँ बच्चे छोड़ कर आती है कि यार मेरे बच्चे तो वहाँ वेलकम ही नहीं होंगे. दे विल लुक एट them in certain ways. So please don't do that. And we really want these kids to be part of the society. जैसे कि वाजिद ने कहा कि उनकी कंपनी में 6 लोग जॉब कर रहे हैं जो people with autism हैं, तो they are very useful to the community. There's no harm in accepting them. So yeah, thank you so much, and we really appreciate your time. And we're just gonna reflect just give a heads up for our next episode, and then we say bye.
Yeah, so we talked about acceptance, diversity, connecting with different kinds of people, and we spoke a lot about kids today who are neurodivergent. What about as adults? As adults, we also should take care of ourselves, and we should also seek meaningful connections and quality friends. So we're going to be talking something along the lines of adult friendships next time. So until then, stay tuned.
And thank you, everyone. And if you need contact for Wajid's company or Arfa, just to talk heart to heart as a mom, I can provide you their emails. Please comment below or just text us. Thank you. Bye.